everyone, welcome to Sage's Garage. We are finally back and working on the Triumph engine. I know that last time I posted a video I said it shouldn't be too long until I post another one, but we've had so much difficulty with this crankshaft nut. I didn't want to post a video until I knew that we were actually getting some good work done. So now we're here today and we are going to get some work done on it. We finally got some heaters going in this super chilly garage. We have a plan of action and we are literally just going to get right into it. First things first, we have decided that we are not going to start with cranking that crankshaft nut off. Obviously, we've had a lot of difficulties. Thank you all so much for all of your comments, by the way. They were so helpful on the last one. I'm sorry that I haven't yet gotten to reply to any of them. It's been crazy here, but I saw every single one and I appreciate all of you for giving me your advice and all of your tips and your help. They did help a lot, and so we did end up picking up some tools that I will show you when we get to that point. We are going to start by removing the connecting rod and piston assembly. Now, although in the Haynes manual, that's the opposite order. You're supposed to take the crankshaft nut off first. We think it's going to be easier if we remove the connecting rod and piston assembly first, and some comments said that, so if you commented that, thank you very much. It does make sense, so we're going to try and do it in that order instead. So the first step is what we're going to do is we're going to turn the block sideways. Now, when we do remove the crankshaft nut, we're going to have to clamp it down to a table or something to make it more stable because obviously it was pretty wobbly last time and that doesn't help us get leverage and get it off. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tip the engine over so that we can access the connecting rod bolts, the one that so conveniently broke on my last engine. We're going to make sure that these ones are looking all good, and when we put them back together, they're all good so I don't have the same problem. But basically, I'm going to remove those and then take out the connecting rods and the pistons, and we will go from there. I did want to mention though, the reason that we do still have the engine up on the blocks, like I will show you in a second, is because we do still have the oil pump there, and that sticks out below, and so that's why we couldn't clamp it down to the table and rest it flat, because the oil pump is there. So the actual first step is to remove the oil pump. I just want to give you a little recap since it's been a while. Here is what the engine is looking like right now. As you can see underneath, the oil pump is still there. And yeah, here it is. We've still got those pistons in, and they are flat top pistons on that one. Here is our crankshaft nut. Unfortunately, it is pretty damaged now from all of our efforts, so of course we will be getting a new one. And here is the other side of it. So yeah, now we're going to start by taking off that oil pump. Alright guys, so we got it flipped on its side. Very exciting. Here is what the underneath is looking like. So this is where all of our work is going to be done today for the most part. I've got an 11mm open-ended wrench and I'm going to take off this oil pump. I was going to use a socket, but I didn't have the right attachments, so that's all right. There we go. The oil pump is now off. Whoops, I didn't realize this part came off too. There we go. Now I'm going to start by taking off the connecting rod bolts. I have a 14mm socket here, and I'm just going to get them all off. So I went ahead and got a breaker bar that I could add to this for some leverage because I am unable to crack these off myself. And this is what we're going to use later as well. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. Got it on there, and now I'm just going to use a breaker bar for leverage. So one thing that's interesting about this engine is on the connecting rod bolts and the connecting rods, it also does not have the locking tabs, which is the same as my original engine. And so that's interesting. So we have to make sure when we put them back together, we torque it properly. All right, so we got one end of the connecting rod off and the big end bearing is in there. So we're just hand tightening the bolts back on here so that we don't lose any of the parts, and the big end bearings are still in there. Now we're going to move on to the next ones. Here is one of the big end bearings from the other side. We will see how worn they are once we clean them up. And there is piston number 2. We're just removing that last piston now, so I wanted to show you what it looks like from this side. Just tapping it out.
Oh, that one we didn't even need.
There we go. Okay. Awesome. So now that the engine is sideways, you can see the tappets are sliding out there. So we're going to go ahead and take them each out and bag and label them so that we don't forget what order they're in. Here are each of the tappets. Here's what the underside looks like. Here's what the underside is looking like right now. Our next plan of action is to flip it back over so this side is on the table. We made sure to rotate the crankshaft so none of the parts are sticking out. However, there is still this part that is sticking out past. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this end dangling off the side of the table, and then we're going to put 2x4 shims here and here so that this doesn't hit the table and it can still rotate. And then we're going to clamp it down or bolt it to the table, and then we can get off this nut. All right, so we did a bunch of maneuvering. We tried to figure out a bunch of different solutions, but what we ended up with, the block is on these little pieces of wood here. We have the flywheel and this mount dangling off the edge of the table here, and then we have clamped down to the underside of the table, and we have this pipe wrench here. I know this is a terrible thing to see because it's on the crankshaft nut, but it's already destroyed, so we're just going to have to deal with it. So what we're going to do next is we're actually going to use this torque wrench and socket to get off the flywheel. We decided that this was our best course of action to do first rather than doing the crankshaft nut, because once this is off, it'll be out of our way and we can actually either use the table or we actually have an engine mount. We could use that, so we're just going to do this first and weigh our options. Now, I could try and do this, but the reason I'm not is because we are on a bit of a time crunch, and if I did it, I would have to stand on it or use probably multiple breaker bars, so it's easier if I just get some help. The pipe wrench over here is here just to keep the crankshaft from spinning because it is hitting the table there. We borrowed these heaters from my grandfather, and I am so thankful for them right now. It is keeping us nice and cozy. And they're fine threads, so they took a while to come off. Now we're just going to go ahead and try to gently pry this off. And there we go. It's off. Oh, cute. Gunk from when I tried to clean it, probably. Very nice. So we put these bolts back just so we wouldn't lose them. Next step is I'm just going to take off these ones. They're loose enough where I can just hand loosen them and I don't have to worry about the double nut method. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and crack each of these. And I'm just going ahead and using my torque wrench with my 13mm socket. The torque wrench is also a gift from my grandfather, which I really, really appreciate because I'm sure I'm going to need it so often. So I went ahead and put the socket on this other tool rather than using the torque wrench. That way I can get these a bit looser because I am not ready to do them by hand. All right, now we got all this off, I'm going to use my soft base hammer and I'm just going to all right, and there we go. Ta-da! So here's how it's looking right now, and very exciting. We got a good few steps done today. We got so much done today. I'm so glad. Even though we haven't gotten to the crankshaft nut yet, that's all right. We got more progress than we've gotten in many, many months. Now that it's warming up, I'm going to be working on this much more often, so there will be more content from me coming soon, I promise. But we have to stop now because I have to head to ballet class. So, you know, going from working on engine to go do some ballet. It makes perfect sense. But I will see you guys next time. Thank you all so much for all your help and all your tips. I read every single one of your comments, and you have no idea how much it means to me because it's truly so helpful. Like, I wouldn't have known how to do any of this if it weren't for you guys telling me how to do it. So thank you so, so much, and I will see you soon. Bye.